This is Rostra, the St. Theodore Guerin Junior Classical League podcast, where we bring the lessons of classical study into the light for the benefit of all.
Welcome back to Rostra. Got Sawyer Holman with us today. Sawyer, welcome back. As you and I were just talking before we started the episode here, it's surprising that we're into our third season of Rostra and nobody has talked about this topic. What is your topic and why did you pick it?
My topic is the Spartacus Revolt, and I picked it because I've heard of it, but we've never really talked about it before in class, and I thought it sounded very interesting about slaves uprising.
Yeah, it really is one of these famous episodes of Roman history. Again, we were talking, and you may get into it, or we may get into it here in this episode. It played out in American movies in a very big way. So give us the rundown, kind of the thumbnail sketch. Who was Spartacus? Why did he revolt? So
Spartacus, he was a Thracian gladiator.
And we'll just let that bell ring there. That's what happens when you record during a school day. So you say a Thracian gladiator.
And he was not happy with the treatment of him and the other slaves around him in like the work they were doing, which was farmer or gladiator work. And he led an uprising within his gladiator school, and it grew throughout the southern Italy.
Yep.
And they basically formed an army.
Yeah.
Throughout Italy and bombarding the southern Italy especially. And the Roman Republic tried to stop it many times, but a lot of times Spartacus won.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of these details here. So do you have a time frame for when this went down?
Yeah, 73 to 71 BC.
73 to 71 BC. So in that first century BC there. I've often said it's a strange thing. Here you've got a portion of your population that you have enslaved. Then you're going to train some of that slave population how to kill. Because you mentioned these started at his gladiator school, and we've had other episodes, I think, on gladiatorial shows, where these guys were trained. This was like, going to, an NFL camp, get ready for the season kind of thing. These guys had to train and learn how to put on a fight for show, but it was also, you're going to kill somebody. So you're training slaves how to kill. You're putting them around weapons. There's a part of me that thinks, what did you expect would happen at some point, right? These guys are going to rebel. So you say it started in the school there. They broke out, and you said they kind of developed an army. There wouldn't have been enough gladiators, I think, in that one school just to make up an entire army. So how are they getting their soldiers, as it were?
Well, they went around to other schools and other slave areas. Like a lot of the times the slaves were on farms and stuff.
Yes.
And they just collected over time slaves that wanted to join them.
Yeah. So basically a snowball starts getting bigger as it rolls downhill. You're exactly right. They started freeing slaves in other gladiator schools, other farms, bring those guys in, and next thing you know, your ranks are swelling. And you say that the Roman Republic, which is that period of Roman history at that time, elected officials, tried to stop this. How did they try to put an end to this revolt?
Well, at first, they were sending armies with about 20,000 men, and they were surprised by what Spartacus had. They didn't expect it to be such a powerful group of people.
Yeah.
And they failed over and over again to stop it because Spartacus kept winning small battles.
Yeah.
Until finally they sent two consular armies.
We're going to pause you right there because that's kind of the big finale, as it were. So hang on to that for just a moment. That also, it not only surprised the people today, but it surprised the people back then. The Roman army is the greatest force on earth, right? And so there's a lot of arrogance, a lot of pride in that. And then also, quite frankly, underestimating these people because they were slaves. And the idea of, well, they're just slaves. What can they do? Well, obviously the arrogance of that just got the best of them. And you're exactly right. Spartacus would just win engagement after engagement after engagement, defeating Roman soldiers. And suddenly Rome takes notice and says, okay, we're going to have to get more serious about this. And so you see a couple of consular armies. Talk to us about what that involved.
So the consular armies were led by Crassus and Pompey, and they were, I think it was, each army had 8 legions and a couple thousand cavalry.
Huge numbers of men now on the field. Yeah.
But at this point, what they didn't really realize was that Spartacus had almost 100,000 men with him, just from the years he had built up.
Right. And so how does it, I mean, you've got this really epic showdown at this point. It really is King Kong versus Godzilla time, right? It's these two massive forces, really, two on one side and one on the other. How does that then play out?
So Crassus and Pompey tried to sandwich almost Spartacus in the middle. And what Spartacus did was he focused on the southern first, which was Crassus. And when he had focused on them, it was a huge battle with pretty equal men at that point because they had set so many legions and stuff.
Right.
And they Spartacus took a defensive stand.
Yeah.
And Crassus used different techniques to try to bring him down, and it was just a bloody battle.
And then when Pompey's troops come in,
just outnumbered at that point.
At that point, it's over. And a lot of people, if they do know the story, know the tragic ending. Many of the slaves are killed in battle. Again, some of these were gladiators. Some of them have been farm slaves and not as well trained. But what about the survivors? Did you find out what happened with the survivors?
Yeah, they were captured, and some taken to Pompey's and some taken to Crassus, and they were executed.
Do you know how they were executed?
Yes, it was on the cross.
They were crucified the entire length of that main road or main highway leading southeast out of Rome, the Appian Way. And so the entire length of the Appian Way, you have all these crosses filled with human beings, and it was Rome's way of saying to any other slaves, don't even think about it. All right, because this is what's going to happen to you. And really, there was no other significant... You always had some slaves who were running away or things of this nature, but no other significant slave revolt after that. So, and I don't know if your research, you got into this. Again, we were chatting about it just a little bit before we started the show here. The modern retelling of this, did you find out any information on that or about the... So, yeah, there was this great movie in the United States, mid-20th century movie, called Spartacus. And just a blockbuster, won lots of Academy Awards. And there's a famous scene in it where the gladiators, or the slaves have been captured after the defeat. And it's announced to them that they can be spared crucifixion if they will turn over Spartacus. Now, this is all part of just the movie, but it's a famous scene where Spartacus himself is about to stand up and reveal himself so that all the surviving slaves don't get crucified. And one by one, the other slaves stand up and shout, I'm Spartacus, I'm Spartacus, I'm Spartacus. Because they really so identified with what he was doing. They were willing to risk their own lives for the sake of the idea of freedom. So such a powerful story. Anything else you think our listeners need to hear about this guy?
There was one thing that I read about, that Spartacus tried to send some men to a different island to almost kind of restart the revolt because they were losing. And he paid pirates to take the men over, and the pirates betrayed him.
Yeah, there's a whole thing, and that's a whole, really, we should have another whole episode just on ancient pirates. Too many people think of, Jack Sparrow kind of piracy, but pirates are just people who deal in illegal trade on the high seas. And so you certainly had that. And yeah, he got betrayed by the pirates, and, again, who knows what would have happened had they not betrayed him. So absolutely fascinating. So much good information out there people can check out, and hopefully people will be inspired to do that. So thank you, Sawyer.
Thank you for listening to Rostra. You may check out all our episodes on Spotify and follow us on social media at GuerinJCL. That's at GuerinJCL.